Hey YouTube, coming up in this video we are going to talk about the top 5 things that I wish I knew before I bought my Chinese diesel heater.
This is Claire, she's from Sheffield, and this is me, Andy, I'm from Tarn. We are husband and wife and come from a place many call God's country, Barnsley. The great thing about living in Barnsley is there's always somewhere different to be. This is where this beast of a man comes in. This is our self-converted camper van, St. Christopher of Atlantis. Talk about beasts, this is our wolf Pablo. He comes with us as our security. Having this van has made me the master of my universe. I can go wherever Claire says I can go when she says I can. If anyone can better that, then let me know in the comments section. Anyway, here's some stuff we did.
Okay, so the first thing is that you need to make sure that you've got everything that you need to fit the heater on the day that you're going to do it. So the things that you need are the circular hole drill bit so that you can cut the hole in the van. And there's a few things within the packaging that you could do with upgrading. One of which is the fuel line. You get a green fuel line that comes with the kit, but if you do any research online, you'll see that it's notoriously difficult to work with. So you can get a replacement fuel line on Amazon, and it makes things a lot easier. I upgraded the exhaust on there. I got a longer exhaust so that I could position it better under the van. And it also helped because what I did was I created a little downpipe from the muffler just so that I could direct the fumes away from the bottom of the van. So that came in really handy. You also need some sealant for around the holes that you cut out of the van. Now, I actually bought a turret. I know I've got a friend who didn't use a turret and he didn't want to use one and he didn't have a problem with it, but he's quite handy on the mechanic side of things. But using a turret really helped to just cut one hole, and then it's easy to pre-install the diesel heater before you put it into the van. You can use the sealant then to seal around the hole that you've cut out and around the turret, and you get a nice airtight seal. You want heat resistant sealant so that it doesn't obviously burn while the heater is running. So number 2 is that I was probably most worried about the diesel heater out of everything else that I had to do on the van. But really, it's not that difficult once you get into it. One of the big tips that I'd give you is, while you're cutting the hole, put some WD-40 on the circular hole drill bit. That makes it a lot easier to cut. I had done some research on this before I did it, and a lot of people were saying that they had problems when they were cutting through with the drill snagging and it snapping on the wrist. But a little bit of WD-40 sorted it all out for me. It just went straight through and it took seconds to cut through. And that was with some OSB board and insulation. You want to make sure when you're cutting the hole that you use a pilot hole to make sure that you're in the right spot. I did do 3 holes all in all. I thought I got it right on the first 2, but it just was not quite right. So I ended up doing the 3rd one, and that worked perfectly. And I was able to fit it under the van in pretty much the only other place that I could have put it other than being under the driver's seat, which I couldn't do because I've got a 5 kilowatt heater instead of a 2 kilowatt one. So a big tip is just make sure that everything is tightened up properly before you run the heater. I had a problem which I'll talk about in a bit with the fuel line, yeah, it seems obvious, but when you're in the middle of everything, it's easy to overlook maybe a couple of Jubilee clips that you haven't done. So this sounds silly and it sounds simple, but this happened to me. I installed all of the heater, it was all running fine, and then I went and I moved the muffler. I put it temporarily on the side of there's a little lip on the van, and I put it on there and I moved it underneath the van. And what I didn't account for is that by moving it, it actually moved the exhaust directly under the diesel heater, and this led it to touch the fuel line. So I came back to the van one morning and I could smell diesel around it, and then I saw some splash marks, and sure enough I burnt a hole through the fuel line and it was dripping. So just make sure that it's not touching. So what I've done since then is that I've got a cable tie and I've tied the fuel line to the air intake pipe, and I haven't had any problems since. So if you've seen any of my other videos, you'll see that we use an EcoFlow power bank, and it's got a 12 volt outlet that you can put a car adapter in there. and it does say on the instructions not to use a car adapter, but I had seen a YouTube video where somebody was using a car adapter to run a Chinese diesel heater. I got a heavy duty car adapter and I wired it all up. It would not run from the EcoFlow. When the glow plug starts, it takes too much from the EcoFlow that it can deliver. So I was getting an error 03 code, which I thought was the glow plugs. Turns out that initially it was, but once I'd investigated it, it wasn't getting enough power to get the glow plug going. So the fix for it was to install a cheap car battery that I just keep topped up, and that works fine. Tip number 5 is get familiar with the error codes, because it just makes things a lot easier. There's a few error codes that will come up every now and again. And if you know what they are, it's an easy fix. Rather than having to scramble to get on the internet or find the manual, you'll be able to look at it and know where it is. One thing that I would say is the error code E03 on a Chinese heater. It does say that there's a glow plug problem. And as I said, I did have that initially because that came up when I took the glow plug out. The original one, it was actually snapped. So whether it snapped as I was taking it out or it was damaged from the start, not quite sure. But then when I put a new one in, I still got the same error code, and it means that it's not getting enough power to get the glow plug up and running. So there are my top 5 things that I wish I knew before installing the diesel heater. If you've got anything that you want to add to this, please put it down below in the comments. And if you like this video and want to see some more, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next one.